So, if I did it right, we are back for another episode of Bounty Hunting Across the Galaxy with Todd and Ken. And this is going to be an episode unlike what we've done so far. Most of our episodes have been somewhat scripted, somewhat researched. However, tonight we have a special thing in store for you. We're going to interview one of our friends. And before we do any of that, I'm going to cue that magical intro music, and then we'll get going.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
This is Bounty Hunting Across the Galaxy.
And who's up in that top left corner?
That would be me. I'm Todd. My character's Cypher-Nim. And you are?
I am Ken, sometimes known as Kenixgar Kabur, and tonight's special guest in the top right corner. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the world.
I'm Dan. My character is Uric Kelborn. I've been in the Mercs for 3 years as an official member.
Nice. And so we've got 3 Mandalorians on one podcast. And as I was saying earlier, it's unlike what we normally do. Usually you pick a character from Star Wars, dig into their history, or look at a special era. But tonight it's really going to be all about you, Dan. Hopefully you're up for the pressure.
I'll do my best.
Yeah.
All right.
So is it fair to guess that you would call yourself a bit of a Star Wars fan?
A little bit.
So what is it about Star Wars that you have found so interesting or so attractive over all of these years?
Mostly the lore. There's so much of it. It's so varied. It just keeps you entertained the whole time. And it's constantly changing and evolving.
So what was your first introduction into Star Wars?
It was Empire Strikes Back on VHS tape. And then went from there, started collecting figures from the 90s and evolving to today, being a costume character.
So do you have a figure of your character?
Not yet. I'm working on it.
I don't either, but one of these days I'm gonna print one off and paint it up.
I have it started. I just got to paint it.
Well, you're not going to be able to put it in a campaign if it doesn't have at least 3 colors on it.
That's right. You can't put it on a Warhammer table.
And so you mentioned that there's lots of lore in Star Wars that you find very interesting. And so what is it that has drawn you to, of all of the characters, of all of the races, of all of the sects and clans, what is it about the Mandos that got your attention?
They're the least represented in the movies, essentially. But now with the Mandalorian coming out and more of them in the Clone Wars you're seeing, it's just, the underdogs, essentially. They weren't represented, and now we have a show. And supposedly a movie coming out.
That's the rumor, right?
Yeah. Next year, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they finished principal photography or not, but it is on the agenda.
Yeah, I don't know that they finished yet either. I haven't seen anything anyways.
I think there's going to be a panel about it at Celebration.
That would be interesting.
Or a trailer release.
I think I saw that too. Unfortunately, Celebration is so far away.
Yeah.
Well, geographically far away. Time-wise, it's less than a month away.
Right, geographically.
I'm very envious of all the folks that are going to be able to get over there, either just to be at Celebration, period, but to be at Celebration in Tokyo, Japan. That's gotta take the intensity up a couple notches. Because if you think way back when, George was inspired by samurai movies and things like that, and now they're doing a celebration right there in at the home of the samurai, for lack of better words.
Right. It's exciting. I'd be very interested to go. I mean, Tokyo is definitely one of my destination cities if I ever get out of, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. We're just going to have to live vicariously through Zoe Hinton from Star Wars Geek Girl.
Right.
Not only is she going to Celebration, she's also hosting a panel at Celebration.
Very nice.
If things go smoothly, in fact, she'll be able to broadcast her panel live. I'm not sure what special guests she has in store, but she always manages to rustle up some great people, whether it's Steele Saunders or the crew from Star Wars Rebels or whatever. She's interviewed a lot of folks, and so it'll be interesting to see who she bumps into and spends time with over there in Japan.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting. I mean, I always look forward to watching like the notes and stuff like that from or any live streams that do occur over there.
And I hope, with that in mind, I really hope that they do some of the live stream stuff, whether it's the Star Wars stage or some of those larger panels. And I know what they'll probably end up doing is, blacking out the screen for the trailers and stuff like that, the most of them. But it would be great to see some of the things that they've got going on over there.
I'm sure there'll be somebody with a cell phone recording.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because just recently, hopefully it doesn't get taken down, but before the end of this episode, they leaked a trailer of Andor that was in the celebration in London.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so it was very, very similar to the official trailer that came out first, but there were some additional bits. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I hope they're not leaking too much stuff for the new Andor. I'm kind of looking forward to it, and I don't want them to give all the good parts away.
So, considering that we're 3 Mandos, do you think there's the chance that a Mandalorian shows up on a screen somewhere in Andor?
I don't think that they will be, in my opinion. But I would say that there's probably somebody trying to make an excuse to put a Mandalorian in there.
It'll be just walking through the background of like a tavern or a cantina.
Right.
Yeah, something like
Wait.
that. They're in the middle of this really sneaky conversation, hush whispers at a table, and then just rando Mando walks through the scene.
I mean, I'd volunteer for that job. So,
well, I mean, if we go back to the first season,
register on the forum, so we have that Outer Rim directory.
Oh yeah.
In the first season, in Luthen Rail's gift shop, for lack of better words, his den of antiquities, he had the was it the post-imperial set of armor? No, it was. I think it was an earlier set of Mandalorian armor that was right in there, along with the energy shield from Naboo, and so who knows? Maybe there'll be more Easter eggs like that tucked into the show, even if it's just a Mando helmet somewhere,
right.
One of the carbine rifles or something.
Oh, I'm sure they'll stick something in there. There's always little tidbits left everywhere. Or what do you call them? Nostalgic nuggets?
Nostalgic nuggets. Things that we watch and whisk stuff away to other thoughts and connections to happiness and joy.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if you scoop back one show back to the Skeleton Crew, that thing was filled to the brim with nostalgic nuggets. And Andor too. I mean, how about those rocks from Indiana Jones tucked up on the shelf?
Oh yeah, right.
Rail shop and stuff like that. So definitely lots of that. And are you all caught up on the recent stuff, Dan?
I am not.
Okay. What was the last show that you watched?
Do you really want to know?
Of course, that's why
you're probably gonna kick me off the podcast.
Nah.
It was season 2 of Bad Batch.
Okay.
Oh,
that's a fantastic show. And they did what? They did 3 seasons of Bad Batch too, or was it just
yeah? I was stuck on season 2 for a while too. So,
and that's another one. I mean, you think of the Bad Batch, you could also think about the A-Team.
Oh yeah.
These folks that are on the run from the government and doing sketchy stuff for money.
Right. Yeah,
I did enjoy Bad Batch.
And one of the things that amazes me most about Bad Batch is there's so many characters in the show that are voiced by one guy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
D. Bradley Baker does the voice for all of the clones, and so there was several episodes where he was talking to himself, and there might have been one other character on set or on scene.
Right. That's crazy. I've been listening to the Pot of Rebellion and listening to them talk about the Rebels show, and very interesting just going through the different episodes and how they all talked in the booth, and it kind of gives you some of the realism to what goes on in the animated shows.
And it's amazing too to me how much effort goes into it. It's not just talking at a microphone. I mean, they're getting into it physically so that their voice sounds like they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And just the intensity with which they're able to change their voice to display either emotion or effort, because in the cartoon they're doing things, they're running, they're picking things up, and that, if you're just talking into a microphone, you don't get that sensation. But when you watch the show, the voice matches what's happening on
Matches the
screen.
activity.
Yeah. And I was actually really impressed that they said they had cameras on them, and like some of their facial expressions when they were talking, actually they put that into the animations.
Yeah, that just goes to show how deeply involved all of those parts are.
Yeah.
So the animators aren't working in isolation, and the voice actors aren't working in isolation, and the writers aren't working in isolation. They're all this wildly in tuned machine, getting all the pieces put together for an episode, or in the case of what we're talking about, an entire season.
Yeah.
And of all of the stuff that you are caught up on, which do you prefer? Do you prefer the live action shows? Do you prefer the cartoons, or is it?
I do enjoy the cartoons.
Oh yeah. And what is it about cartoons that draws you in the most, you think?
Well, the cartoons stories I'm more in touch with. Like, I do enjoy the Bad Batch. Like, I really, because I like 99 from Clone Wars,
Okay.
and then finding out about Clone Force 99, like, just kind of stuck with me.
And with cartoons, they can do so many things in a cartoon that they can't do in live action. Whether it's going to Mortis, this planet that looks like a dual pyramid, one going one direction, one the other, just floating out in space, and all of this kind of stuff, or the transformation from a physical character into a winged beast or whatever, jumping across chasms, or the foliage of different planets, and cartoons have been around for ages and ages and ages, whether you're talking about Looney Tunes and Roadrunner, all the way up to, like you said, Bad Batch.
Right. Plus they can give you that suspension of disbelief, so like you have that where somebody can jump across a chasm, and realistically somebody wouldn't be able to do that, but in the cartoon it makes more sense.
Yeah, just by the sheer nature of it being a cartoon, like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, they can fall off a building and land like superhero pose, and everything's fine.
Cartoon physics.
Cartoon physics, exactly. And so you were mentioning a little bit ago, your Mandalorian name. So how is it that you got involved in the Mandalorian Mercs, Mando Mercs? I think that's the official name now. Recently changed. But how'd you get into the Mando Mercs as an official member?
It all started with Lehigh Valley Comic Con in Schnecksville. We got the card in the mail after we moved into our house. And we went and checked it out, and that's where I met Frank and Tara, and got interested in it, and attended my first armor party, and just went from there. Spent 5 years working on my armor, got approved as an OM, and then took a leadership role for 3 years, and then I stepped back this year, just take some time. But
yeah, because it's all volunteer, right? You're not getting a salary to be a leader of the costume club. And what was the inspirations for your specific character?
I've always used the name Yurik across Xbox, PlayStation, other video games, and then just doing some lore, found the Kelburn clan and used it as my last name for my clan name.
And for the listeners who aren't necessarily all that steeped in it, what does it stand for? What does it represent? What connection is it?
I gotta look it up.
Okay. Because Because Todd, your character Cipher is similar to that. You have used the name Cipher in a lot of different things as well, right?
Yeah, I've used Cipher in a lot of different mediums. I use it for like whenever you could pick a name character in a video game. I use Cipher Nim, or I use Cipher, or I use Nim as separately. So I just decided when I needed a name, like that's kind of the way to go. Is just I'll just combine those two and make them me, since them and me are all in one.
And yeah, like you said, you've been using them for quite some time. And
Yeah.
you know, Kenix, for those of you who are trying to wonder, Kenix to me is a play on Kenneth. You know,
Right.
so or I don't know if IX in another language sounds like Kenny, so maybe it's Kenny, you know, but
Oh, that could be.
you know, so it connects to me as an individual. And the Gar Kabur, those two words in Mandoa, or the language of Mandalorian, means your protector. So, you know, my Mandalorian name is Kenix, your protector.
Right. Which is really weird because I was actually going to use Kabor in as my last name when I was originally coming up with a Mando name, because I wanted to, because my initial intention was to be a Mandalorian protector from like the comic books, the little group that Boba Fett founded.
Yeah.
So I was originally going to do that with the orangish number.
Sorry about that. No, I didn't turn my phone off. I apologize. I'm sorry. The problem of doing these kind of things live.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to show up.
Right. And we should say hi to Mike.
Yeah, Mike Kent was on. He found us on YouTube.
Oh. He said our Facebook Live was not working. Did you get us on YouTube then?
Yeah, he that's where his chats are coming through from YouTube. So that means I did something incorrect, which is par for the course of any show that I'm involved in. I managed to make some sort of, you know, click the wrong thing or unclick the right thing. So,
well, the good thing is that my workaround worked though, so we still got on live.
Yes, and we'll be able to share the recorded version of all of this. Oh, so were you able to do that magic behind the scenes research to give us your last name, Dan?
Yeah, they were one of the clans that joined Jaqulin Cardera when he rebelled against the Sith, favoring reign of Mandalore the Vindicated.
Oh,
okay,
okay,
that's awesome. That's way back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
we
so
didn't even cover Mandalore the Vindicated yet.
No. It's definitely on our list of Mandalorians to chat about. That's for sure. So going back to Kenix, you know, the character that I created is a very simple character in terms of his armor. It's modern armor with no paint, just Beskar. So describe your character for everyone. What color scheme did you use and why?
Well, my color scheme actually ended up by accident. I started out with like a silver and brown combination, like a bronze, and then it just looked dirty because of the bronze. It just, all the armor looked dirty. The helmet looked really good, my original helmet, and then, you know, I just happened to have this blue and green paint in my basement and sprayed them next to each other. I'm like, those are my colors. It just worked out. Used a little black as accent on the helmet and just rolled with it.
Yeah, it came out really great. That's for sure.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
And I think for me, that's one of I think one of the coolest parts about the Mando Mercs versus many of the other costume clubs. So if you look at the 501st, most of their characters have to be exactly what you see on screen. So you have 10 people dressed as a stormtrooper, and apart from heights and some other, you know, minor details, they all look essentially the same. But you have 10 Mandalorians next to each other, and yep, I'm blue and green, or I'm red and brown, or, you know, who's the weird guy with the black flight suit and, you know, naked metal.
Right. I did want to say hi to Susan and Logan. They're watching too on YouTube. And I wanted to say, like, some of the really cool stuff is like Dan and I did pictures together, and his with the blue and the green, and mine with the red and the it really kind of, it worked well together. So And of course, you and I have to get together and get our pictures taken at some point.
Yeah,
But
we've got to film some clips and make some commercials and just do some
yeah,
general wackiness.
yeah,
I
I
know
haven't
Sundays.
actually seen you in person since we started this, so
Yeah, yeah, it's been probably over a year at this point.
I don't know how all those pictures are going to show up, but
That's
there
true.
is Todd and I at Lehigh Valley.
Oh, that is very, very cool.
yeah,
I'm just getting a nasty glare from I don't know where.
from everything.
From all of the things.
That was one of our serious photos. We had a lot of funny photos as well that day.
Well, you guys
Yeah.
did that like that Mando strut out the door, didn't
Mhm.
you?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my first OM convention.
And that's pretty close to you, right, Dan? Lehigh Valley.
Yeah, it's 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this one's a little farther. The one in April is going to be in Allentown
Okay.
at the Ag Hall. It's a larger space.
More room for the different groups to put out
Yeah.
their stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's going to be fun. That's only what 2 weeks away.
April 12th.
Yeah, April
So, yeah,
12th.
2.
And so you said you've been costuming as an official member for 3 years. What are some of the most memorable moments for you, either as a handler, which is someone who's helping the costumed people, or as someone who's dressed up in kit?
And it's a lot of seeing people's reactions. You know, it's just all the people that just love Star Wars to see us and smile and just
Yeah. And I'm going to double that because I think that's the best reaction is you realize somebody walks around the corner and they're like, there's like 3 or 4 Mandos standing there in costume, and then sometimes those little kids' eyes light up and, or, they want to hold the blaster, or they're dressed up like a Jedi and they want to fight you or to get pictures taken.
And even the people that don't know what the Mandalorians are, they're like, you guys look awesome. Like,
Yeah, there's something to be said for a group of costumed characters. You get 3 Mandos together, you get 2 biker scouts together, you get Vader and anybody, and it just looks cool. It absolutely does. And for me, the fun part is not just the kids, because the kids are excited about just about anything, but when that adult walks around the corner and they immediately become a kid.
Right.
They turn to whoever is with them, they hand them a phone and say, hey, get my picture with that with that guy or that girl or whatever.
Right.
They immediately go to that childlike enthusiasm, that excitement, and want to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I think stuff like that's great. I mean, like I've talked to a number of people at conventions and, hey, how do you get into this? How do you do that? And just you got to build your own armor. You got to do your own stuff. I mean, you can buy some of it, but it's going to cost you. But really, really diving into those people that are like immediately like drawn into the, hey, I want to do that too. It's like just seeing that light in their face is like amazing.
And that's an interesting point. The idea that Star Wars as a thing, as a form of entertainment is one thing. You sit down, you watch the shows, you read the books, you talk about it on a podcast for hours on end. That's one thing. Then there's the folks who get that itch to take whatever they see in a book or what they see on screen and want to make it. That level of creativity, that level of figuring it out, the crafting of it. That's also a special thing where at the end of it, you get to step back and say, I did that. Whether you did it with the help of 6 people or you did it in your own basement by yourself out of EVA foam, bubble gum, and duct tape, to be able to say, I made that is pretty good, pretty darn cool.
Oh yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, I don't think I could have got through the end of my official pictures without my wife coming down and taking pictures for me and getting everything straightened out. I mean, even though I had so many people help me get my armor straight and get the helmet in order and get everything sanded and primed, and this doesn't look quite right. And the how many times I tightened my legs up in my in my flight suit, um, and it came down to, just to get the pictures just right, I had to get my wife in front of our blue curtains so that I had a backdrop to make it all right.
And then when with some of these events that we go to, so yes, there are kids and we've got our backdrops and all that. Sometimes there's the actual Star Wars celebrities that are there.
Yep.
And to
Yeah.
have one of them come up to you or, in passing just turn you and say, that looks pretty good. That's also, pretty exciting. It's a neat a neat feeling to know that the makers of Star Wars, whether it's an actor, whether it's a live action actor, a voice actress, or even some of the people who did some of the making behind the scenes, for them to give you that thumbs up and say, I see what you did there is really cool. Heather and I were at one of the events. It might have been Fan Expo Philly, or Contropolis, one of those where Ashley Eckstein happened to be there, and Heather and I were walking around, just out on the floor, and Ashley was walking one way, we were walking the other way, and Ashley just waved and said, "You look great, man." Like, all right, that counts. That's a win.
That's a win.
Yeah, I don't need an autograph. I don't need an 8x10 sign. Just that was a real cool moment.
I remember it was a Keystone Comic Con a number of years ago. Ray Park came over to the Mandos and got a whole bunch of pictures taken with us. Of course, it was the one day I wasn't there, so I missed it. But
Oh,
it was cool that he just walked over and he's like, "Let's get some photos." And I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I think there is something special too about Star Wars celebrities, that they understand that it's the fans that bring it to life. If it wasn't for the fans, they wouldn't have the movies. If it wasn't for the fans, they wouldn't have the opportunity to travel the world and go to these conventions. So the level of kindness, the level of admiration, the level of support that they give is quite remarkable.
yeah. And I'm going to tell you the opposite thing is last year when I went to the Comic-Con in Ag Hall, I actually had my own friend walk past me like 3 times. He's seen pictures of the armor, he's seen stuff that I did, and still had no idea it was me.
Well, I think that's another reason why I like helmeted characters,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not coming to see Ken.
No.
They're even with the 6 subscribers that I have on the Rambling Star Wars fan, or the dozen or so, 30 or so that we have for this show, I don't imagine any of them knocking down the door saying, "Oh, we gotta get to that photo op with Todd and Ken." We're not at that stage yet.
We'll get there.
Maybe by the end of 2025 we'll be there. But
Well, I saw one of my old HR ladies at the Star Wars in concert at PPNL Center.
oh yeah. So was it with your helmet on or helmet off?
Yeah. I yelled her name and she turned like, "What is going on?" And I took my helmet. She's like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, there's a special kind of shock when the random Star Wars person, calls your name, and then they take it. Oh, this is who it is. And nowadays there are so many different kinds of events. Mike mentioned Air and Scare, which happens at the National Smithsonian Air Museum in Virginia, or even these smaller events at libraries, or a 5K fun run in a community or whatever, where you can be out and about and just see the fans out there. And Sue, I know you're the kind of person that you are. You set a goal, you're going to get there. So I'm just going to, stand in the shadows of that. That's for sure.
Yeah, just keep riding. She'll get us there if anybody can.
And speaking of the celebrities, has there been a moment with a celebrity where you afterwards you kind of pinched yourself and said, "Did that really just happen?"
And kid, or just seeing celebrities at like a con.
Either one, because that's the other cool part is as Star Wars fans, we sometimes we go and we want to dress up and play
Mhm.
pretend spaceman. Other times we want to go and just be the tourist for the moment. So either in costume or out of costume. How about you, Todd? Is there any? We'll go Todd and then Dan with the answers.
I actually haven't met anybody famous from Star Wars yet. I haven't gone to enough conventions. In fact, the last one I went to, I took the boys to Fan Expo a couple years back, and we met some streamer that did Minecraft, and that's about the closest I've come to it.
All right, how about you, Dan?
We got to meet Ashley Eckstein. Did a photo shoot and then did an autograph, and
And tell me she's not the
she's great,
kind and just
super nice, and
attentive.
Yep.
One of the cool things I like most about hanging out with Ashley is that while you're talking to her, there can be 750 people around. It's you in those moments, whatever those moments are, whether it's 3 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever. She's paying attention to you and like laser focused, and she's super nice, and her husband's just as cool.
Oh,
too.
he's great.
And he's equally famous in his own way. I mean, he was a world champion baseball player. You know?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And so when they're on the convention floor, usually it's Ashley Eckstein and her husband, but then there are other people like, oh, you're the guy that played for the A's. You know?
Wow.
I think it was the Oakland Athletics that he played for.
Hmm.
You know, and they're like I said, they're both just really, really nice people.
Yeah, I just haven't had that opportunity. It's weird. I've been a Star Wars fan for all this time, and I've never actually run into somebody. I mean, I'm still fairly new at the conventions and stuff like that, but and I don't travel a whole lot, so
Okay. All right. Well, the best part is you don't live too far from Philadelphia.
no,
You know,
no,
so you can get to some of those events.
no. So yeah, we did a day at Fan Expo not last year, the year before, I think it was.
Yep.
And I took the boys, but maybe it was 3 years ago. I don't know. It was a while ago. But I went down to see the Mercs and help them out a little bit.
And are there any updates for the stage setup for the Mercs? I haven't been to an armor party or a Mavoyal clan event in quite some time.
For
What
Fan
kind of-
Expo, or
For any of them, I didn't know if there were different set pieces or things that you guys have been working on.
we haven't really acquired anything new lately. Just probably small pieces here and there.
Okay. So still the prison cell and the command outpost tent and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And our backdrop.
The space backup. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
The cell's been in a rebuild process for about 2 years now, I want to
Okay.
say.
Well, no matter, it's a crowd pleaser.
Mhm.
Folks love that thing. Especially with the movie magic of the reflective tape that lights up with your camera flash.
He played for the San Diego Padres.
Okay, so
There you go.
I am a fake baseball fan. I just wear the Star Wars versions of baseball jerseys.
Yeah, I'm not a baseball fan at all. I coached Little League for a couple of years when my boys were playing, and that was just because they needed coaches.
And speaking back, coming back to the costuming side of things and the creativity involved, if folks were to ask you your advice on how to get involved in one of the costuming clubs, whether it's the 501st or the Mando Mercs, what kind of suggestions would you give to them?
Is that for me or for Dan? Or
Yes. I should have. We'll go Dan first and then Todd second. I apologize.
Depending on which group you're in, attend an armor party. I mean, come to another con as a handler, hang out with us, learn the behind the scenes stuff, like helping people kit up, what they can and can't do in kit. Because I know like the stormtroopers, like visibility is slim.
Yeah.
They just have this small. I mean, ours isn't much better, but just hang out, learn to people, try to familiarize yourself with the forums.
Yep.
It's tough,
Yeah.
but You know,
And
there's enough
that's
of us
the
around
online
that.
stuff, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would say the same thing. I mean, if you're looking to get involved, get on the forums, look at what you can and can't do, talk to people. That's probably the most
Yep.
important thing. Um, just follow up on your expectations. If you're going to be a Mandalorian, you're not going to have a lightsaber. If you're a stormtrooper, you're not going to have a lightsaber.
We can
You
have
With
a
know,
few exceptions.
we can have a damaged lightsaber.
you
Yeah.
can have a damaged lightsaber, but you can't have a working one.
Yeah, so there are a few exceptions. You know,
Mhm.
you could do the Ralph McQuarrie prototype stormtrooper that had the shield and the saber,
That's
but that's super intense and super in depth. But if you're going just for your regular, TK like Mike Hinton, yeah, he's not going to be wielding a lightsaber, in costume,
right. Right.
or at least not officially. He may do it because he's that kind of fan, but
Right. The real question is can you use rebel weapons as a stormtrooper?
the other suggestion that Mike gives is, listen to our shows.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
because sometimes we have guests on here like Dan who have experience making the things, suggestions on how to get through the steps or making some of the connections. Like I
Oh
said,
yeah.
I don't think it can be emphasized enough how helpful it can be
Mhm.
to get not a mentor necessarily, but a build partner, someone who can, look at your costume. Because one of the most challenging things that I had was while wearing the costume, I can't see the costume. Even
Right.
standing in front of a
Correct.
mirror, I don't see where things are shifted, or I don't see the
Or
the Velcro that's showing, or I don't see that my flight suit's too baggy or too loose or too tight. So you need that other perspective to help you fine tune it so that it can
yep.
meet those special criteria and get approved.
And don't rush. Don't rush the build. It's a
Mm,
marathon, not a sprint.
yeah. And I would say if you can find somebody that wants to go through the process with you, so you
Mhm.
can spot each other, and then you, I mean, you're still going to need somebody senior in order to kind of guide you along the way. But
Mhm.
realistically, if you had another set of eyes on somebody that's actually looking at the same set of rules, that's going to help immensely.
And with that idea of, going back to the idea of not rushing, also be aware of your own skills. Like I
Yep.
think it's totally okay if you decide to buy all of your parts and put it together. There are other people who want to, get their hands dirty using the 3D printer and doing all of the sanding and polishing and painting and all that. And both finished costumes are finished costumes. Whether
Yeah.
you printed it yourself or you heat
Mhm.
formed it with a heat gun or a hair dryer or whatever, or you had
Right.
somebody build it for you and you did the
Mm,
finishing touches.
right. Or you buy it on Etsy or
Yeah,
wherever.
yeah,
Yeah. It's 100% chance possibility. Whatever you can do to get in. Obviously, if cost is an issue to a lot of people, that means you're going to be working on it more.
Yep.
yep,
If cost is no issue, buy it and save your time. You can get right into it. I mean, you can see people online that buy their kits and just paint them and away they go. And there's other people like you and well, all three of us. I mean, it took us all years to finish our kit, and not just finish it so that we can wear it, but even to get to the point of OM.
yep,
And don't get discouraged when you do go through the application process and don't get approved the first time. You know, we're representing Disney essentially now. Like, we need to uphold some type of standard and uniformity across our kits, and just keep at it. Do your fix list.
Yep.
Ask for help.
yep.
There's plenty of us around that are willing to help open up our houses. Come to you. Like,
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
Well, and with that in mind, there may be the person or people that want to build a costume,
Mhm.
but they don't necessarily want to jump through the hoops to be official, which is also fine. You can
Yep,
you can
absolutely.
make a costume and go to a convention and have as much fun in your costume as we have in ours. You just don't get the perks of going to some of these other things because
The
you haven't.
official like sporting events
Yeah.
Right.
and you're never finished, Mike. Your costume's never truly finished.
That's fair.
Yeah. Because there's something will either break, which
Mhm.
is the problem I have right now. My cod piece is broken, so I couldn't troop today if I wanted to.
That's why you wear a loincloth.
That's why I got to figure. Now, so here's a goofy question I'm going to ask the two of you: if I
Yeah.
do make that transition from cod piece to loincloth, which I can't believe I said those words out loud publicly in that order, do I have to just submit pictures of my loincloth, or do I have to submit like a whole costume reapproval?
It's a small enough change that you shouldn't have to go through reapproval. Your best bet to check with your Roosler, who's in charge of helping us get our costumes up to standard.
Okay. And for the Pennsylvania group, is that Nick?
It's Mike.
That's
Oh.
Mike. Yeah.
Mike
Mike
Bullion?
Bullion. Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Nick's the Allerad. He's
Okay.
in charge.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking that to your point, the loincloth is a little bit easier to put together.
I got approved with both. I had a cod and a loin at this.
Okay.
So
At the same time?
yeah, because my intent was going to brigades eventually, and they all require the cod piece. So
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
I got approved with it right away, so it was there. And sometimes I don't wear the cod; I just wear the loincloth. You don't know it's there because the loincloth covers where the cod piece should be.
Okay. And it can be literally just the cloth that gets
Mhm.
attached under your girth belt, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
That might be the easy. Does it have to be armored, or can it just be
Nope, it can just be a soft.
fabric? Okay.
Mine's duck cloth, like our flak vests are made from. But
Okay. Yes, I ended up. I bought some black backing material
Mhm.
because my girth belt it's braided and the braids had come unglued, so I wanted to have a black backer that I could glue the braided cord to.
Right.
So, and I have extra of that material, so I could very easily, make fashion a loincloth out of it.
Yeah. I went with the sash because I couldn't figure out the
girth
braided
belt thing.
the girth belt thing. So
I hand braided mine.
Oh wow!
Mine's all paracord cobra weaved together and then tied together as a girth belt.
I lucked out. Somebody had one that they weren't using for their who wants this, and so I raised my hand and got it. It was white when I got it. I ended up just spray painting it black.
oh, there you go.
And like I said, the various braids have started to come unglued, so I want to glue them together to a piece of backer material.
You could also look at doing a leather wraparound, like a strap almost. Kind of hold it together that way too.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm better at sewing, so I made myself a sash.
That's the thing that's quite remarkable when you think about all of the skills that are necessary. A front fanny pack? I don't know if that's going to work.
I don't think that works.
Only if it's armored.
I mean, technically, we do have a lot of little fanny packs. At least I do. I have like 7 of them that go around.
But I don't think
I call them utility belt.
Yeah, I don't know if I call it a fanny pack. Maybe cross, circumnavigated waist belt or something.
There you go.
But think about all of the different
satchel.
Yeah, satchel. Yeah, it's a Mandalorian satchel. All the skills that are needed to finish a costume, whether you're talking about the construction aspect of it, sewing or printing or heat forming, plus the sanding and the painting and the
sanding. And
and there's the sanding.
And don't forget the sanding.
Yeah, we should probably talk about the sanding because that's also seemingly unending. Because when you're done with the sanding and you do some of the painting, you realize you still have to do more sanding before
Yep.
you can do more painting.
Yep.
But-
There's when you thought you were done with the sanding, there's still sanding left to do.
Yeah, especially when you try to, you do the poses for the approval pictures and stuff like that. 3D print lines, or your edges don't look rounded enough. And there is something special too that once it's done, and you do get those people that come up to you and want those pictures taken with you, and you're just standing there, you're smiling under your helmet, ear to ear. Nobody out there can see your smile, and you know you're smiling.
Yeah.
Every time I smile for every picture.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Force a habit.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Even to the point where sometimes I make jokes with the people. I promised I was smiling. Yeah, or I blinked. Yeah,
I blinked.
Can you do another one?
If you did it again, I blinked, and then they look at the phone, and you're like, haha.
Yeah. There is something magical in that moment. Or when you get home from the event and you're scrolling through social media or whatever, and you see people that have tagged the event. Well, I didn't even know that they took that picture.
Right.
Or
Oh yeah, I know. It's kind of
wait,
it's
I was
really
in that
cool.
picture.
And I really, if I could tell AI what to do, this is what I would tell it to do: is to compile a group of all of the pictures from around the world that I'm in. Because I know that there are pictures that were taken that I wasn't looking in the right direction, or
Sure.
I
Or you were
didn't get
standing in the background or something.
exactly.
Yeah.
Or how many of those the convention videos where you're walking around and somebody might have filmed you or whatever.
Because how many people walk by and take a photo as they're walking by, and you're not even paying attention?
Yep, absolutely.
You're like, wait.
There you go.
Sue
says it's a man purse.
Well, if we're gonna go that route, it's a Mando purse.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's it's just
Very true, Mike. Very true.
Yeah, very true.
And there's also something fun too about just being the handler. You had mentioned Dan that to volunteer to do that, and to be actively involved in helping people capture the moment. Whether it's grandma and the youngster, or an entire family, including a toddler and a stroller, or how many times has a random person just handed you a baby and just said, "Here, can we take a picture of you?"
I still think that the amazing part of being a handler is how many people that just hand you their phone.
Yep.
They don't even ask half the time. They're just like, take my picture.
Can you take my photo with these guys? And we're like, sure.
Yeah,
sure. Just random person standing there.
Sure, I will take your $1,000, iPhone whatever number, and
right.
It is really, really, really fun.
And then you end up with 3 or 4 phones, and you're like, I don't know whose is whose anymore. Like,
yeah.
And what happened to mine?
So if there was one costume from one show or movie or book that you could make, regardless of price, regardless of how long it would take, like you just snap your fingers and that costume is there for you, what costume would you wear other than the one that you have?
Phase 2 Rex.
Oh, that's really specific, my friend. Why that one?
I prefer the Phase 2 helmets over the Phase 1.
Okay.
And I like Captain Rex.
And Phase 1 is that really tall fin?
It has the fin, and Phase 2 has just a small brow.
Okay.
It's a mohawk.
Right. All right. How about you, Ken? Before I go,
I would love to do Tor Vizsla, the first Mandalorian Jedi. Or there was a cartoon, a character from a comic book. I think his name was Kirk Hanos. He was an Imperial Royal Guard, so he was red. But in the comic book, he had a dual-bladed sword and had this super cool armor. So it wasn't just the red robe, but it was red armor, and I thought it was really, really badass.
Wow.
and it looked like it would be really involved to make. So that's why it's on the
Yeah.
wish list. How about you, Todd?
If I had to go with the wish list, I would probably go with Revan.
Okay.
Probably the Darth Revan side. Do the the red and the purple lightsaber with the all black. But the light side is also just probably equally as good because I do like the color balance on that character as well. The white and the brown robes with the black and the red mask and the two lightsabers. Um, Something a little bit more realistic would probably be like Balin Skull.
Okay. Just because you got the great beard going on?
I mean, I do have the look,
Yeah.
but I think he just came out as a really interesting character in Ahsoka, and I'm still waiting to hear more of his story. I mean, his part of the story is probably my favorite, and he doesn't have like this immense amount of background in there. Like you don't know where he came from, you don't really know where he's going, and there's just that enough mystique around him that I just want to know more.
Yeah, and that's typical Star Wars. I mean, even if you go back to the very first movie and all of those little things that they said in it, you're like, what do you mean Clone Wars? What was that? And you
Yeah.
mean there were more Jedi and so there was ever since that first movie, there was this desire to get more information, to get more characters. And to your point, Balin Skull is a fantastic one. And while I am very, 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 very sad that the actor who portrayed him has since passed, I was glad to know that they chose or are choosing to recast him. So his story, Balin Skull's story, will continue. And are there other stories or other shows that you're looking forward to? I know you said you're behind on a couple of the shows, Dan. Are you looking forward to anything that's coming out?
Not really. I mean, if the Mandalorian movie does come out, yeah.
Okay.
But
just because you're partial to Grogu?
Yeah, that's why he's right there.
Yeah. He's the good angel on your shoulder versus the stormtrooper on your other shoulder.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna guess that you're interested in a season 2 of Ahsoka because you said, Todd, you wanted to see the backstory of or that's the backstory, but the story.
The story. Yeah. I mean, I'm a purist. If it's Star Wars, I'm probably gonna watch it. But yeah, Ahsoka is great. I'm really looking forward to Andor. I'm trying to rewatch the first season little by little, but we'll see how far we actually get with that.
So with that in mind, I mean, Andor's coming up. It's 4 weeks away, roughly speaking. April 22nd for all of you who have Disney Plus. This season, they're doing it slightly differently. So instead of week by week episodes, they're going to do, for lack of better words, a movie every week for 4 weeks. So it'll be 3 episodes that make up this movie, and then 3 episodes that make up the next one. So they're going to have 4 weeks worth of Andor. How do you think that's going to play out? Do you think it'll be a good way of doing it, or you have questions about it?
I mean, I would like to have it spread out. I like the week by week, the episode by week, just because I like it being more. I want it to last longer.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea that it's going to be like almost like a separate movie every week. The hard part for me is I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up with it week to week.
Okay.
That's a lot of TV. I mean, maybe I can get away with it, but we'll see what Sue says about that. So.
Well, I mean, sleep's overrated. I mean, if you give up anything, you give up a couple hours of sleep.
Right. I've had 2 kids. I've gone to work on 2 hours of sleep once, twice.
Right. Last week, even.
Put it on while you're painting your miniatures.
Yeah.
That's a good play.
Multitasking.
Although Andor, I think, is one of those ones, like, I think, and I could be wrong, but it's one that you need focus because there's so much happening.
Yeah, if I could probably do something, but I'll still end up spending more time watching it than anything else.
Yeah.
So
And I'm
even if I
hoping
have
that
my
they
miniatures in front of me, I'll still be.
yeah, end up painting something, have to unpaint it or repaint it or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. A wet paintbrush in one hand and miniature in another, and I'll be staring at the TV screen.
Yeah.
That's when you end up drinking your wash cup.
Yeah.
This does not taste like Kool-Aid at all.
No. No, not at all. It does have a unique flavor, though.
Yeah. So
And how
when's
about you, Ken?
I am very much looking forward to Andor, and I'm also very much looking forward to the next season of Star Wars Visions.
Oh, yeah.
It's that animated show where they get, animation studios from around the world and say, hey, what Star Wars story do you want to tell? And we've had 2 seasons of it so far, and every episode from every season has been incredible.
Yeah.
They don't have to me, they don't have to be canon stories. I love just the fact that this group of people, or these groups of people, got together and said, let's do this and make it a Star Wars story, and let's do that and make it a Star Wars story, whether it's the people who did the claymation stuff for Wallace and Gromit or some of the other animation studios out there. They've done some remarkable things, and I'm curious to see what they come up with next.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like the Visions.
Yeah,
I
and
like
I
the
will watch
Tales
it.
too. The Tales of the Jedi and Tales of the Empire, they were both really good.
The thing that was amazing to me about the Tales of the Empire Tales was like each little episode was what, 15 minutes?
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. There was so much information and so much detail put in those 15 minutes. And it was using the animation style from the Clone Wars. So it was just absolutely gorgeous to see.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, going back to Andor, I'm wondering
Which version of Clone Wars? The Gendy Tarkovsky one or the
the second one.
The second one,
Yeah, the one that Filoni and that group was involved in. But it would be fun to go back to that style.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I would like to see that.
And I think it'd be even funnier if Gendy Tartakovsky did an episode of Star Wars Visions. Just for fun, just for laughs. To see what he could put together for it. I mean, he's got the background. He knows all the players. I mean, he was the reason that one of the reasons that we got such a cool story for Asajj Opress and General Grievous.
Yeah.
Although, unfortunately, we never did get another version of Dirge. That robotic Mandalorian bounty hunter. Who had this weird... Didn't he have like this weird magical tentacle thing under his armor or something like that? Or am I thinking of a different character?
I don't remember. It's been a while since I watched it.
Yeah, maybe I was drinking your paint cup.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
So, as we wrap up tonight's show, what parting words do you have for the Star Wars fans out there, either that are interested in putting together a costume, interested in staying up to date on all things Star Wars, or just being a Star Wars fan in general? What words of wisdom would you share with everybody, Dan?
Well, the costuming thing is find something you enjoy, character-wise, and stick with it. Find help, find the local group to you or close to you. Like if you're on the border of a state, if you're closer to the Pennsylvania group than the New Jersey group, we're all inclusive. We don't discriminate or care where you're from, who you are. Well, we care, but as you as a person, but
right.
We're not going to kick you out if you have purple hair.
Right.
That's
we embrace it.
How about you, Todd? What words of wisdom would you share?
For costuming, be vigilant. Keep working at it. Be patient. It all takes time. And like I said before, all three of us kind of had the same story where we fought with a costume for a long time until we became official. and just remember that it's okay to not be official too. If you just want to buy a stormtrooper costume or a Mandalorian costume, and you can run around the conventions and nobody's going to question you. It's only when you try to like represent the groups and stuff like that that somebody's going to be like, hey, we could help you with that. Usually, we're going to help you get that armor so that it looks really nice. Not that it doesn't look nice, but just that it needs this to get that extra step to look good, to look uniform, to kind of look like a complete character instead of just pieces of armor on a t-shirt.
Yeah. And I think I would take both of those suggestions and combine them in terms of, put in the effort, be persistent, be okay with taking time to get there. It's not going to happen immediately, and have fun. Because if you're not having fun, don't torture yourself. This is an investment of time. This is an investment of money. This is definitely an investment of effort. So figure out a way of having fun with it, whether you're getting together with a group or learning from YouTube videos or whatever. Have fun doing it. And I would even give that same advice to folks who are Star Wars fans. Find folks who support your appreciation of it. Find folks who will talk with you about the comic books or the books or even the magazine articles or whatever. And keep it fun, because that's what all of this stuff is meant to be. It's meant to be fun. And if it ain't fun, then we shouldn't be doing it. Dan,
one more.
Please.
Sorry,
yeah,
one more thing I wanted to throw in there. Just be careful. Social media can destroy your inspiration, but it can also be very useful for you to get the right ideas to move forward. But there's a lot of things out there that can really like kind of beat you down and really hurt your enthusiasm. Don't let the social media gremlins come after you.
Yeah, that's a great point. Dan, we usually let folks, advertise themselves, or is there a place that you want folks to find you out on the internets or out in the big wide world?
I'm just on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
I don't have a fancy Mando account yet, so
all in good time.
Yep.
And how about you, Todd? Where can everybody find you in your 65 channels and 47 YouTube places?
Well, I'm trying to catch up with how many places you're on, but for my special fancy Mando account, this is it. If you want to hear me listen to talk about Warhammer 40K and other Warhammer products and tabletop gaming in general, I am on Table Ready Painting on Facebook and Instagram, and I have a podcast, Table Ready, on YouTube and anywhere that you get podcasts. And I also play D&D with my boys every Sunday, and that's Lake Clan Legends, and those episodes come out on Thursdays.
I think those are going to be the greatest examples of things to watch 5 years from now and say, remember when this happened? The time we attempted to attack a dragon and failed, or
the worst one is if you go on YouTube right now and look up Lake Clan Legends. I don't think it's the newest short, but the one before it is me talking like an old lady. So if you just want to go look at that by itself, that's definitely worth it.
I'm trying to put those two pieces together: the talking like an old lady and seeing you live and in person right now.
That's right.
And when I'm not hanging out with you on this show, sometimes I put out an episode of The Rambling Star Wars Fan. Sometimes I'm flying around the galaxy with Mike Hinton and John Scalise on the Inflatable Falcon. And most recently, I was on an episode of Bantha Milk Podcast, Around the Dejeric Table, where the hosts just sit down and ask each other random questions about Star Wars. And so from Ken and Todd and our buddy Dan, who was kind enough to jump on board and put 3 Mandos on a podcast, I'm just going to say, this is the way.
This is the way.
Well done, guys. Thank you so much.